Mr. Fox.
Yeah, yeah. There we
There
go.
you go. All right, we
Yeah,
share the same last name. That's pretty cool.
that's right. Yeah, I thought that was cool too. You don't see very many foxes. Yeah, it's
Definitely not.
it's it's Brenden. Yeah,
Brenden. Okay. I am
yeah.
so sorry. It was my mistake that he got on a little late. The information that I sent him, I forgot to change the time. I have a bunch of guests throughout the week and I send out a bunch of notifications. So that one just slipped by. I didn't catch it. All
No
right.
problem.
But we
No
are
problem.
going to get this started. So, first of all, I want to ask you, are you living in China?
No, not currently. For the last well 6 years, I've been living in China since 2015. I've been living there, actually in two different cities in China.
Okay. All right. I
Yeah.
found that very interesting. And how was that experience as a man of color living in China?
Well, China is a very interesting country. I would call it. I have called it racially unsophisticated, because I think that they don't. The majority of Chinese there don't have much experience with people of color, and they uh, they tend to be, well, especially in the last city where I was. They stare. I mean, foreigners in general, are very interesting to them. They take pictures and and all that. But yeah, they they will nudge each other and point at me. Walk down the
Wow.
street. Yeah, walk down the street staring at me. Those kind of things. And a lot of times when they stare, I've kind of learned not to take offense to it. That
Wow.
they
So,
just,
are
yeah.
you
Go ahead.
saying that they would actually take a picture of you as if they saw something they never seen before?
Yeah, well, right. Especially white foreigners. They take pictures of. But like we were staying, we stay on the university campus, and where I was last time was outside of Zhengzhou, which is in the middle of the country. It's one province over from Wuhan, which is where the coronavirus broke out.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, so theirs considered kind of rural because it's mm, Zheng, Shenyang. Uh, I'm sorry, Shenzhen is uh, one town over from Zhengzhou. Zhengzhou is a medium-sized town of about 7 million people.
oh, wow. That's medium
And
size. Okay.
right, medium size, and Shenzhen is right next to it, which is where the university is, and it's got about 500,000, maybe 400,000 people there, which is considered rural. And so the people there just they go crazy over foreigners, and the government is very suspicious. They want to track, where you are, where you go, how long you're going to be gone, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but so yeah, they'll take pictures. They come into the building where we live and stare, open up the doors, and stare at
Wow.
you. Yeah,
Wow. That had to be quite an experience.
it really is. It
One
really
more
is.
one more question about China, and then we're gonna get into the actual interview. Believe it or not, this is not part of the actual interview.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
is it as crowded over there as they show in movies, like out on the street? Is this just like people on people on people?
Um, I think that Europe in general is very dense, very densely populated. China is a country of 1.4 billion people, and that's why you can say a medium-sized city is about 7, 8 million people. New York is 8 million. And that's the largest city.
Mhm.
so
Yes.
so yeah, you go to Shanghai or Beijing. Now you're talking about a big city, and that's got about I want to say 20 million is what
Wow.
I saw. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty dense over there. Maybe a little less so than what you see in the movies, but yeah, there's a lot of folks.
Okay. Well, let's get into this interview. We want to get to know you. And you are a professor, correct?
Yes, yes, I'm Dr. Brenden Fox. Yeah.
Dr. Brenden Fox. All right, well, Dr. Brenden Fox, I just want to address you correctly. Tell us about yourself. Where you from? You got brothers and sisters. Tell us a little bit about Dr. Brenden Fox before he became the doctor.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm the oldest of two boys, right? And I was born into an Air Force family. Um, so I was born on Long Island, New York, out there with
Okay.
Mariah Carey,
Okay.
uh, um, uh, Eddie Murphy, Alec Baldwin, all, all Long Island New Yorkers, and Madonna, all were born in the same year. Michael Jackson, same year, right?
Okay. Yeah. My
Um,
husband actually grew up in Smithtown. You may be familiar with that as well.
oh, no, okay. No, Smithtown is Long Island.
It's in New York. It's one of those upstate areas.
Okay, yeah, sounds like yeah. Okay. And then being a Air Force brat, we traveled every 2 years. So when I was in kindergarten, we lived in Turkey, lived in Oregon when I was in first grade. By third grade, we lived in the Philippines actually for 2 years.
Wow.
Then New York again, Gary, Indiana, about 19. Oh, I'll give away my age, but 1968, which is when Michael Jackson and his brothers were discovered. So I got there just a little bit after they got famous. Um,
You
um,
traveled quite
oh,
a bit.
Washington D.C. Yeah, and then back to New York, and then I joined the Air Force,
Okay.
and they volunteered to go overseas, but they sent me to Kansas. So 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 yeah, I spent a lot of time, the majority of my adulthood in Wichita, Kansas, um, and yeah, decided to get into education. I spent a number of years being a police officer.
Oh, you've
Then
done a
I
few things too. So
Yeah,
what was
yeah.
your first job? What was your first job? You moved around so much. Did you have like the typical teenage first job? What was your first job?
Well, I really didn't have I worked at a gas station for right out of high school for just I don't know, maybe a few weeks or months or something like that, and then then I went into the Air Force. So my first real job was, being Airman Fox.
Okay.
So
Okay,
yeah,
Area Fox. So during
yeah.
high school, what kind of activities? You play football, basketball, any of those things, run track?
Well, that's interesting. So I loved to play basketball, but since we moved around so much, I never got a chance to be on a basketball team. I'm 6 feet tall, and I had a sweet outside shot, but but I never had a. Actually they used to call me Freshness when I was when I was in the military.
All
Um,
right, freshness.
Freshness, yeah. And so but no, I never got a chance to play on a school team, but I played on an intramural basketball team in the Air Force for dependents. um, then towards the end of my high school days, I picked up a tennis racket and fell in love with that game.
I love tennis too.
Yeah, and so yeah, that and that was passed on to my son. My son is a, a professional tennis player. Actually, he's a tennis coach in Wichita.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I almost think I know what this answer is going to be, but maybe I don't. How old were you when you got your first place?
My first place. Ooh, wow. So, wow, that's thinking back some. So I was in the Air Force when I got my first place. I was about, I want to say I was about 2021,
Hmm.
20 or 21 when I got my first place off base. Other than that, I stayed in the barracks.
In
Oh,
the
and by
back.
the way, here's a little tidbit. I Sinbad, the comedian, right?
Mhm.
He and I were in the Air Force together. We stayed in the same dorms.
Really?
Yeah, and so we all we all knew Sinbad. He was stationed at McConnell Air Force Base, and we all played basketball against each other and everything. And it was interesting. We kind of all kind of made fun of Sinbad because he would go around with warm-ups with Sinbad on the back of his. I'm like, what Negro goes around with with their name on the back of their warm-ups? So yeah, and then he uh, he had some problems in the Air Force and ended up leaving, and then he got famous uh, a few years after that.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
So, when did you get into the educational side of things? And so you teach leadership. What made you want to do that? When did you get into that? Tell us about that whole journey.
Yeah, so what happened to me there was, I believe that in growing up, I believe that if you worked hard, uh, and kept your word, that uh, you would rise up economically and be on a successful path. But I found out that for me, control is a big issue. I wanted to be in control of my life and control of my outcomes, and so I got fired from a job, and that really just messed up my reality. I was like, how could that happen, right? And so I decided to pursue an education from that point forward. I had gone to night school um, when I was in the Air Force, and never I didn't have a support group or a support outlet or anything, and so I just kind of floundered and ended up not doing well educationally. I mean, I've always done well in school, but for some reason this college thing wasn't really clicking very well.
Hmm.
So I ended up getting on academic suspension, and then I had a 1.8 grade point average, and so I just kind of took a break. I kind of took a break, and that break lasted for like 29 years.
Oh my.
And so when I came back to school after getting fired, I came back to I got another job. This is when I was a police officer, and I decided to go back to school so I can be in more control over what happens to me, right? And so I I chose the correct major this time. It was business management. I really fell in love with that, and then I started doing well academically. Ended up getting 4 degrees, the business management degree. Then I turned around and got an MBA just to put icing on the top, right? And then I got a master's degree in leadership. And then I decided, since I was surrounded now, I got a job offer from my alma mater to go to work as an administrator there. And I actually mentored Black men at the college, and we formed a chapter of the Student African American Brotherhood, and that really did well. But then I decided, since I was surrounded by PhDs, that I'm going to get mine too. So I ended up getting a PhD in organizational management and specialization in leadership. So I combined both sides. And then after that, I got an offer to work for a university in Kansas that had partnerships in China, and to go work over in China. So I became an assistant professor of leadership studies. And then last semester, I changed colleges, and now I'm working for the Department of Business and Entrepreneurship. So
Oh,
I can do both.
okay.
Yeah.
So tell us, when
Yeah.
it comes to leadership, what are some of the important fundamentals that we should know or adhere to?
Well, so yeah, leadership was really interesting to me. When I first encountered the major, I never heard of a major in leadership before. But when I looked over the courses, they were fascinating to me. And one of the things that made an impression for me when I was 14, this one of my parents' friends said, you're a leader and blah blah blah, right? And that just stuck with me. And so I've always had an interest in being a leader, being not following what other people do. And so when I got presented with a major in leadership, I'm like, man, this is fascinating. So I signed up. The important thing about leadership is that bad leadership is everywhere,
Mhm.
and bad leadership affects all of us, and uh, so we need to really strive to have to engage in and be surrounded by good leadership and good leaders, and good leaders are people who are authentic. They have consideration for their followers or the people that they work with, and they strive to you know do the right thing. Good leadership is about doing the right thing, and I believe in that so much that I founded my own foundation in 2018, the Fox Foundation, and it specifically focuses on global leadership development. And the and the premise is good leadership, better world, right? Because good leadership, I believe, good leadership cures all.
Okay,
So
I agree
yeah.
with that. So also
hmm
you have a degree in organization?
it's a doctorate in organizational management. Yeah, it's organization management and with a specialization in leadership. So it's a combination of business and leadership. Business is more about the systems of an organization.
Mhm.
Human resources, business law, um, accounting. The things that make a business structure.
Okay.
Leadership is the juice, the juice in an
Mhm.
organization. The things that it involves the people and motivating people, inspiring people. Being charismatic as a leader, and not everybody can be charismatic, but
Right.
everybody it has strengths and weaknesses that they bring to the table to positively affect the outcomes of an organization.
I think because I'm in the process of moving, so I'm organizing things. So when I saw organization, I said, they give degrees in
Yeah, no.
that?
No,
It's like,
if they give a degree in that, I'm failing because a lot of times I'm disorganized myself.
so with being the head of an organization for entrepreneurs, what is some advice you would give to entrepreneurs?
Um, so yeah, it's a little different premise for for I was just looking at one of my favorite books is this book called Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant, A Guide
Mhm.
to Financial Freedom by Robert
Kiyosaki.
Key. See, oh, you know.
Absolutely.
And
Mhm.
in that book, yeah, they talk about the differences between, being an employee or business owner,
Mhm.
or yeah. And so there's a difference between managers and leaders. Managers try to do things right. They have an agenda before them and they try to cross the t's and dot the i's and that kind of thing. Leaders are the ones, to me, that um, prescribe the agenda. They're the ones that put the agenda together.
Mhm.
And so yeah, what I would tell an entrepreneur is that is that it's not all about you. I mean, if you're working with people, it's not all about you, and the people that you work with are what makes what makes the engine run. There's a class that I teach in leadership that one of the segments is on followership. When we think about leadership, we always think about who's the person leading, who's the person out in front. but without the followers, that leader is nothing, can't do anything, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Uh-huh. So, I agree with everything that you have said. That was really good stuff that you shared with us. I'm glad that we got in depth in some of that. So now I want to touch on a little bit more of you again. So
All right.
aside from having, you have one son, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Aside from having your one son, what has been your proudest moment in life?
Ooh. Oh, I like the way you frame that. Aside from having a proudest
Mhm.
moment in life. Um. Wow. That is that is a good one. I would say attaining my doctorate. You know that 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 doctorate is a bear to is a bear to attain. Uh, and it took 6 years. I think the typical doctorate, it just depends on the school or the coursework. It takes about 4 years. I did mine in six because I wanted to immerse myself in the coursework, and instead of going two classes at a time, I did one class at a time for a while, just so I can absorb and be in the moment, right? Um, and then uh, during my doctoral journey, my mother died, and
Mm.
but I told her before she died I was going to be Dr. Brenden Fox. I was going to be the doctor, mom, and so so I owe that to her. And so during the commencement, I was face was all wet with tears because I was thinking about
Uh,
mom.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
I feel
yeah.
you on that. What has been your proudest moment in business?
Oh, well, I had a number of businesses that kind of came and went. Um, wow. um, so you're talking about business ownership or just in general? Just I,
Whichever you deem to be your
okay.
proudest moment. Mhm.
All right. Sorry.
Whichever outweighs the others.
So yeah, my experience in business ownership is, man, you have to really hit the right thing at the right time. And yeah, it's tough to be a business survivor. For the time that I was, oh yeah, okay. So I owned this company called, it was Fox Enterprises. This is back in my 20s, and in it, it was a fashion merchandising or modeling agency in Wichita.
Okay.
And we had achieved celebrity status in the Black community in Wichita. Um, we had kids that wanted to be like our models and stuff. And we were on television. We did radio. We did live shows with One Way. One Way was a R&B group back then,
Oh,
and
I
had
remember them. Uh-huh.
yeah. So we so we did a lot of things. We did traveling modeling shows and stuff. Um, Sinbad actually was our opening act for our first
Oh,
big show, modeling show. Yeah, and so I was really proud of the celebrity status. The models really stood for something. Um, yeah, and so we had a really great time doing that. It's just too bad that we couldn't sustain that for very long. Actually, Sinbad's wife, Meredith, was one of our models as well. So yeah.
okay. That sounds good. We have a raised hand in the audience here. So, Miss Lamar, if you would like to ask your question, you can do so now.
Well, excuse me. Thank you so much. This has been really an interesting interview, especially listening to how you were viewed in China, right?
Oh
As if
yeah.
you were a different specimen.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I did have to ask though, when Sinbad agreed to open up your show, did he wear Sinbad on the back of his jacket?
No, no, he dressed up in a clown outfit, actually.
What?
Yeah, And
that makes more sense. But no, on the business side, where, having been to China and being back in the US, do you think that strengthens your business outlook?
well, I think it's so when I was studying for my doctorate, I learned about the different types of research a person can involve themselves in. And as the professor was listing out all these different research methodologies, he talked about being a critical theorist. And so my ears perked up when I heard that.
Mine did
Um,
too.
yeah, what is a critical theorist? And it's a person who actually studies power structures and race. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I want to be, right? So I got all excited and everything, and so I consider myself kind of a critical theorist, even though, I've been involved in leadership and management. Critical theory is where I live, right? And so there's been all this talk about critical race theory, and they a lot of people have um, you know maligned it and everything, but critical race theory is nothing more than the theory of how a study of how race and power intersect, especially when it comes to the historical context in this country. And so to answer your question, it's you mentioned about business and the comparison being back here.
Yes, and just being in business, period, anything manufacturing or most things that are happening with China, does that change
Ah,
your prospect on
ah,
how or your perspective rather? I'm sorry,
yeah, yeah.
your
So yeah,
perspective.
yeah. So it is interesting. It is interesting, and until you've traveled extensively or lived abroad, you really don't have a real deep appreciation for how, our country, the role that our country plays, in the global marketplace. And in terms of China, they have all the stuff that we had back in the 60s and 70s. Marvin Gaye came out with What's Going On. He was talking about, the ecology and pollution and all that stuff. And we have less of that now because a lot of our manufacturing has moved from here to there, and so now they have a lot of bad air pollution and water pollution and things like that, all the stuff that we had. And so um, yeah, it's really shaped my views on emergent economies and uh, how we're situated in the whole global economy and how things work.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So with that being said, of course, that critical theory thing really caught my attention. But what you said brought up this question for me. When you look at the power and races, not racism, but races, the power structure and races, when you look at the Black community, what are your thoughts on how the Black community could change its situation, or do we need to change, or are we pawns in this whole bigger picture? How do you see the Black community in that?
Yes. So yeah, being abroad also shine light on that. Just to give you a few stories. And so in when I talked about China being racially unsophisticated, I was in a large, I don't know, kind of department store, and I was going through the cosmetic section looking for some lotion, right? And the women that worked there recommended some lotion for me, but it had skin bleaching, skin whitening product
Oh.
in it, right? And so they called themselves being very helpful because obviously I needed to whiten my skin.
Wow.
you know,
Yes.
yeah. And so skin whitening, skin bleaching is a big business overseas, and it to me it's reprehensible.
Yes.
That the same companies that we give our business to, we give our dollars to here, actually do engage in skin whitening over there. And so the lighter in China, the lighter your skin, the higher the more status you're perceived to have.
Wow.
For I'm sorry, their brand of racism is different. The U.S. has a unique brand of racism, unique to any other part of the world, and other countries, you know, there's the example of Germany, learned their racism from us, right? So this whole notion of superiority, you know, higher, you know, class and all that stuff is embedded in Asia as well. And so you're perceived, if you have lighter skin or white skin, you're perceived to be more beautiful. You're perceived to be a higher class, because only the people who work outside in the sun have darker skin. And so, you know, you're kind of looked down upon. But the same thing is to a lesser extent in the Philippines, where I spent a lot of time, but still, they believe that if you have a baby by a white man, that baby's going to be beautiful, and it's not going to be teased or anything like that, you know, growing up. And then there's a lot of stereotypes that go along with skin color as well in the Philippines. For us, yes, Xavier, I think you said about being pawns, and yeah, we black folks. Okay, so in my dissertation, I talk about this. You know, I talk about how the wealth and income gap is worse for us in the U.S. than it was in apartheid South Africa. Wow. There's more of a gap of wealth and income now, presently, than there was even in that country, right? And we are, and Dr. Claude Anderson has written a couple of books that talk about this. One of them is Black Labor, White Wealth, and the other one is Powernomics, where he talks about, and the words just jump off the page. I mean, when you read the books, they just, all you end up doing is say, yep, that's right.
Okay.
And so yeah, black folks, you know, we think we've come a long ways, but you know, in many ways, I think if you look at it, we really haven't. We're still, you know, Black Lives Matter. We're still struggling for racial justice, social justice, and economic justice, and we're a long ways from it. And which is the reason why I developed a side hustle, you know, in financial literacy, because I'm trying to educate Black folks so we can. That is the last rung of getting any kind of justice and empowerment, is learning about, you know, finances, how money works, how we can accumulate generational wealth, you know, and we're a long way from it. We think we get these jobs with these titles, but that is just a smokescreen.
Absolutely, because it's consumed by your debt.
Yes.
And not
good
debt,
how the country,
but bad debt.
No, that's right, and that's how the country operates. You know, you know, if you go to the Philippines or China, you know, China is a cashless. I'm going to say cashless society. You know, they you can do anything through your WeChat app, and it's you know, catch a taxi, do all that stuff with WeChat. You know, you can go there and not carry any cash on you, and you'll be fine. But and in the Philippines, there's, you know, there's no debt. It's all cash and carry. Here, we're consumed. We're swimming in debt. You know, and this is one of the things that I realized, you know, after coming back, because it's so much a way of life. You know, we are in debt for our car, for our kids going to college, for our house, for a cable. You know, everything is paid for in debt, and so there's no, we're just drowning in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to get more into investing and allowing our money to make money for us, because as Kiyosaki said, there's not enough time in a day to exchange your time for money. and
Yes,
become rich. You have
that's
to
right.
make your money work for you. And
Right.
that's one of the things that, everybody is conditioned to get a job. And I'm not saying there's
Yep.
anything wrong with a job, because a job
Right.
can give you the money to finance what you're investing in.
Right.
However, that job is not what you boast on, oh, I make 100,000 a year. There are people making 100,000 a month, you know.
Yes. Yes.
So the in the bigger picture, there's much bigger things to set as a goal, to make a plan to attain or whatever, than just getting that six-figure job. But I guess this is the furthest we've gone so far. So this is where, we hang our title, oh,
Right.
I am this and I make six figures,
Right.
but I
Y-
have seven figures worth of debt.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, we're taught, to, go to college and you get that college degree and you're going to be fine. You'll make your way into the middle class, certainly. But like you said, I've always been in pursuit of that six-figure income, and you just work and work. And then we have all the landmines associated with employment, job discrimination. I read an article, academic article about it not being so much about discrimination as it is favoritism,
Mhm,
because the white people hire other white people, they
mhm,
go to church with white people, they make their
mhm,
associations with white people, and so sure you're gonna hire the person
mhm.
before you hire the person you don't know, and so that really kind of opened up my eyes.
And
But
then
yeah,
we
go
start
ahead.
off our young kids with that, and I have nothing against college, but I dated a doctor. He was 15 years older than me. So at the time he was 60, and
Hmm.
he'd been a doctor, for all those years, and he still had student loan debt.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and that's my reality also. Uh I didn't do I did a lot of things the wrong way. When I went into the military, I could have gone to night school, and the military would have paid 75% of my tuition, but I didn't do that. I waited until after I got out of the military, and took on student loans uh, to finance my education. I did clap out of 30 hours, so I saved myself 30 hours of class time, but I still when I graduated had six-figure debt, in
Yeah.
student loans.
My daughter is a mortgage broker, and she talks to me sometimes about, the loans that that's coming, on to her. And she called me one day. She said, these student loans are really something else. They're really messing up people's lives. And you don't think
Yep.
about it, because as you get older,
Yep.
people are being denied refinancing their homes because of their student loan debt, and they don't
Yep.
qualify for certain things because of that student loan debt. And a lot of people are actually losing their houses in foreclosures simply because they have student loan debt.
Absolutely.
That's just
Yeah.
crazy, especially once
So
you retire and your debt to income ratio, that all changes.
right, right. So the system doesn't work, and that's the reason why, again, I got into financial literacy as well, because I realized that the system does not work. Right. So after getting four college degrees, you're told you get these degrees, you're don't worry about your student loan debt, because you'll be making enough to pay that off. That's not real. That's not the reality, as you said yourself with the doctor that you dated. It's it's a strangle. It suffocates you, right? And so the system doesn't work. You got this massive debt, and then you've got employment issues. Trying to get equal and fair treatment on the job, and being denied promotions, and and so yeah, and so we Black people need to figure out a way to become business people, entrepreneurs, self-employed, and financially free, financially independent. And so that's become a passion of mine here in the last year or so, helping folks become financially independent. That's
That's
the only way that we're gonna get any kind of justice or equity.
So one of my things is I believe that we need to form more investment clubs, investment groups. I have a guy that I have Financial Friday. So I have a guy that comes on and he talks about stocks, and one that talks about crypto. But the one who
Mm-hmm.
talks about stock, he has an investment group. And I'm into foreclosures and flipping and stuff like that. And I have been for a long time. And back in Milwaukee, when I first got started, I started going to the auctions just to see how they worked, because I would actually go to the sheriff's department. I went to the auctions, and there was a group of white guys, and they sat at the same table all the time. They've been into it for a while. And, it started out with just one of them. I heard their story, and then they grew. And so there's always three of them there. It's not always the same three, but they are an investment group. They put their money together and they could get, better properties or more properties, and they continue to grow. They own a lot of Milwaukee now, and they flipped a lot of stuff. They're all millionaires at this point. And I would just love to see more black people come together and do that type of stuff. That would change, the whole narrative of who we are. Well, you know what? I don't even want to say that, because we are consumers. We spend a whole lot of money. So as far as having some money, we do wind up getting money somehow, but then we spend it on ways that don't come back to us. It doesn't, produce anything. We're just throwing it out into the wind, on hair and rims and gold teeth and stuff like that. And none of that stuff has any value. It's not going to benefit us in any way down the road. I would really love to see more black people come, but we don't trust each other. So I don't know how that's going to ever happen. So
that's true.
I guess we should just get back to this interview.
No, but you raised a lot of good points. And, I was reading last night in Claude Anderson's book about, black labor, white wealth. And he mentions the same thing. And his example was the Jewish community, how the Jewish community came together. They support each other. And they accumulated wealth. And he was using that model as an example of what, we need to do. I wrote about that for an undergraduate research project, how Black people need to come together and reinvest in each other. So that's a very, very good point. I hadn't thought about investment clubs, but yeah.
I saw it happen in front of, and I was in my early 30s at the time, and I just watched it. I watched how they just grew. If we could come to, if you got I bought my first property for $16,000. I paid cash for it. In Wisconsin, you have to hold on to the property for a year. So in that year, I lived in it for free.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and then I sold it at the end for $64,000. So that's if you have a group of people, we could do that, with several properties, and then that cuts out on you having to rent or have a mortgage. I had no rent or mortgage for a year, so that keeps money in my pocket. So there's ways of, building wealth, but we're so busy trying to look like we have wealth versus actually having some. So anyway, my next question. So what was your toughest moment in life?
Oh, okay. I would say, remember I told you that the disruptive moment in my life was when I got fired. So what happened was, all right, I worked for the Wichita Police Department for like 10 years as a civilian employee. I worked in the records section, right? And then I decided that I wanted to learn about money. And so I decided to go into become a financial advisor. So I did that and struggled mightily for like a year and a half, because it was all commission based, and I really didn't have the inventory of people to help support that. So I decided to go back and get a job, get a job to a steady income. And I went back to what I knew at the Wichita Police Department, and I had to start all over again. I was on probation for 6 months. Simultaneously, I was working as a security officer at a convenience store in the black part of town, right? And for folks that living on the east and west coast, probably don't know that Wichita has a black a black section, and at the time they right at the at the time they were having a big gang issue, big gang problem in Wichita, and I, as a security officer, I was there unarmed, but I'd get threatened to get shot, almost every night.
Oh
And
God.
so yeah, it was rather unsettling. And so I decided that I'm gonna get a piece. I'm gonna arm up. And so I got a gun with a holster to accompany my security uniform. At the time, Wichita hadn't been having any firearms classes for their security people, so we were kind of left out to dry. I said I'd rather go home and apologize for defending myself rather than being unarmed and
Right.
being and so so I would take my uniform in to my the job at the Wichita Police Department, and they decided that they were going to fire me for having a firearm in the building. Now,
What?
mind you, for 10 years I'm working with detectives and police officers. Everybody's carrying guns. It was no big deal. I kept it secure in a room and everything. But yeah, they fired me for having a handgun that you never took it out. I never took out a holster. I never, yeah, it was crazy. So that really shook me, and that was, and so I had to kind of struggle for like 6 months, working different jobs, and so I could, pay bills and everything. That was really disruptive because I have a high, I consider myself to be a very high, what's the word, self-esteem, self-confidence, right? And so
Mhm.
when something like that happens, I've always tried to do the right thing, play by the rules. Being the oldest son, I never told a lie. I always got good grades. I'm the achiever in the family. That kind of thing. And so when something like that happens, it kind of rocks you to your core. You know, and yeah, it was
Okay. I
yeah.
I I can see how that would definitely rock you. That you said crazy. That was the exact word I was thinking when you were telling the story. Like, how do you? It's a police station, firearms.
Yeah, right, right. And I knew that I had a personal relationship. I mean, I knew everybody in the command structure. I knew all of the deputy chiefs and all. I had great relationships with them. The chief of police was a brother at the time and everything. Knew him for years, and then you're just gonna come and
Wow.
do you know yeah, nobody talked to me. Oh, it was okay. Get me
So,
started.
so I just want to check in with you. We started a little late. Do you have time for me to actually finish the whole interview, or do you need to go?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm
All
enjoying
right.
myself.
All right. So this time next year, what do you hope to have accomplished?
So, okay. Since I've been living and working in China for university here, uh, what I'm trying to do is transition away from that into something, um, into a position for college university here. And it's been a struggle. They, they tell you that, the more education you get, the easier your prospects of being hired are. But I found that to be the exact opposite. The less education I've
Mhm.
had, the easier it was for me to get a job. And the more education I had, I'm telling you, the struggle is real.
Wow.
And so yeah, I've been applying all over the country for a an administrative position, and I'm figuring I got this PhD, I can rock that. High GPA, no,
Mhm.
it's been tough. And so what in the next year I'd like to transition away from going back to China, because I still have the possibility of if China opens up their borders, we're going back. We're going back over there, and I think once you've done a year in China, that's good enough. You should get your
Okay.
you should get your your props and everything for doing that, and then come on back. So I'd either like to have a job at a university as a chief diversity officer. I just finished writing an academic a chapter on a book about being a chief diversity officer and what it takes to do that. Or my side hustle turns into the main hustle, and and that's the real goal. I'd like to be a dream of mine is always to have passive income and have my money work for me and not have to work for my money.
Absolutely.
So,
that's how it's supposed to work. That's the
right.
goal.
Right.
So
I think a job should be a temporary thing for people.
it should. It should.
Yeah.
And if you actually have a job that you enjoy, if you want to work that job until you hit retirement, so you just have that extra money coming in anyway, that's cool. But it definitely shouldn't be looked at as your primary
Your bread and
long-term
butter.
source
That's
of
right.
income, like for life. Because actually retirement, they've hyped it up to be far more than what it is.
Absolutely.
And that's a
Absolutely.
whole other conversation I could get into, because I wound up taking care of my parents because they're older. My dad passed. He was 91. My mom's 84. She has advanced dementia at this point. But when you really start looking at those numbers, the actual amount of money you wind up getting after you retire, for most people, it's barely enough to live on, especially if you're a single person. It's rarely enough to live on. That's why a lot of people wind up in those senior homes, because the Medicare or whatever Medicaid, they still wind up getting Medicaid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
and that's one of the things we talk about in financial literacy. I do some retirement planning, but that's one of the realities, that I came across is that, man, nobody ever talked to me about retirement, having a nest egg, having what they call emergency funds, proper protection, any of that stuff. This is conversations we didn't have, and we didn't have those conversations, in high school. With all the education that I've been able to achieve, none of it's been in personal finance. And so that's just classes that we don't have, and so now we're starting to have give those classes and workshops at places like Harvard and Columbia, because they don't teach it.
And
So
it's really bad as we get older, because one of the things that I learned was that Medicare, it does not cover long-term care, which a lot of people in their 30s and 40s don't know, unless you are taking care of your elderly parents. Does not cover long-term care. Your health insurance, if you have that co-pay thing or whatever, they only cover what Medicare covers, which is not long-term care. You actually have to have an insurance policy that covers long-term care. Otherwise, if you are not exceptionally rich, you need to be completely broke, because you're going to wind up applying for Medicaid. And if you have just enough in the middle, they're going to make you spend all of your money before they kick in. You can't have more than $2,000.
Preach. You're right. No, you're absolutely right.
Unfortunately, I am. And I went through that with my mother, because she had her little, money saved. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was more than $2,000. And so we had to spend that money before they would help her. So you have to either be really rich where you can afford it, or have an insurance policy that covers long-term care, or be completely broke. Those are the only ways you get through it. So make sure.
And you're right. And 70% of people, statistics show, are going to need some kind of long-term care. 70%. And I imagine that number is even worse in the Black community.
It's because the thing about it is, we all, well, most of us, I keep life insurance because you just never know.
That's right.
But most of us have life insurance because we know we're going to die. But most of us don't have long-term care policies, because we don't think we're going to have something that we're going to be alive, but have to be in a place where we get 24-hour care. because
Right.
yeah, and we think that, oh, I'm going to have Medicare. Yeah, you will, but it's not going to pay for that.
That's right. And I was ignorant about life insurance policies before joining, before becoming, getting involved with financial literacy. But they have life insurance policies now with living benefits. And so, it's life insurance shouldn't be about for when you die, but it also should be about for when you're alive, right? And so, there are a lot of life insurance policies that you can get now that have what they call living benefits, long-term care, critical illness, chronic illness um, built into it, and it's all tax-free money. So,
Okay. I
yeah,
learned a little bit about life insurance from a friend of mine who sold it, the difference between term and whole, and everybody needs to learn the difference between a term life insurance policy because, as my dad found out, a lot of term policies, they only last until you're 80 or 85. If you live past that, you're just shit out of luck.
yeah, absolutely,
And a lot of
absolutely, and
people don't know that.
we get on the job we get these group life insurance policies, and we're thinking, hey, we're good, but that only lasts until you're there, you're at the job. When you leave the job, there goes the insurance. And so if you develop a health issue or something like that, you may not be insurable.
Mhm.
And so it's a pretty scary prospects, and being ignorant is costly,
It
right?
is. It is.
So
It puts you in a really bad situation. They say ignorance is bliss. It is surely not. It is not.
you're right. You're exactly right.
So I talk a lot about relationships, even though I've been talking about money and all that other kind of stuff. I'm into that
Hmm.
too, but I talk a
Yep.
lot about relationships as well. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a few relationship questions. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is, are you single?
I am.
Okay. The second one in connection with that is, why do you think you're single?
Oh, why do I think I'm single? Oh, that's a good question. Well, okay. So, all right. So I was married for 25 years. The marriage ended in 2014, and uh, it's amicable. I mean, I haven't heard from my ex in a few years, but we parted on a cool basis, right? um and I believe in that. You should try not to be bitter or angry or anything like that. Try to resolve things as best you can. But I do have a girlfriend in the Philippines. She's there, and it's been tough during COVID. I would like to bring her over to visit the U.S. She's never been out of her country, and I've been there a number of times. But yeah, that's about the singleness of it, I guess.
Okay. So you are unmarried, but you are in a relationship. So I'm going to stick
Yes.
to this other question
Okay.
because that next one wouldn't pertain. So what is the biggest challenge of relationships and how do you handle
Oh, okay. The biggest challenge of relationships is, I guess, setting expectations, and then communicating. I think at my age, brothers just we just want to be cool. We just want to, be at peace, right? And so we want to pick a partner who is going to the you know the advice for women is be his peace, right? And I think that goes a long way. But at the same point, brothers need to be, authentic and real. And so it's about communication, um, and it's just about letting each other live, I guess, right? And being supportive of that person in their living. And so, yeah, I have some good friends here in the States, and they've been going through relationships, and I'm just trying to be the best person for them, in whatever capacity I can be for them, as a friend and supporter of them and their life,
it?
so
All right.
yeah.
So now we're going to play a little game. You ready
Okay.
for this? All right.
Yeah.
So You have 60 seconds. This is a fill in the blank. There's no right or wrong answer. Just say whatever the first thing is that comes to mind. Okay. So the first
Mhm.
question is, when I'm alone, I often.
Oh. Okay. When I'm alone, I often take myself on a date.
Okay. It's never okay to.
Oh, to uh to be oh boy, to be abusive or negative. I say to be abusive to another person.
Okay. I'm at my best when I'm.
uh Around other people, being an extrovert, that's where I get a lot of my energy from.
I learned to never.
uh be verbally critical or assaulting. Oh, I learned that hard lesson. It took me a long time to learn that one.
Hey, well, that was 60 seconds.
Oh my God, that went fast.
Yeah. So I said I was going to keep track of everyone who answered the questions at the end of the year. I was going to give a prize to the one with the most answers. You got up to
I
4.
failed that one, man.
You got up to 4. The highest has gotten up to number 10. So
Whoa.
yeah, you didn't you were not gonna win the prize this time.
No, being a professor, we're very verbose. We talk a lot. So sorry about that.
Oh no, that's all good. It was good to hear your answers. At first we kind of threw you off.
It did.
Okay. So that's the end of the game. You got 4 questions right. So back to the interview. Just want a little
Okay.
smile. If you could go back and give your younger self a piece of life advice, what would it be?
Whoa, man. Yes, indeed. Okay. I would tell young Brenden to uh, get into college uh, and finish it while you're still in the Air Force. Get your officer commission, become a officer, and and take that job at the Pentagon.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
That
Yep.
sounds like some good stuff.
Oh man. Yep.
So who are your top 3 comedians and why?
Oh my goodness. I love me some Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
Oh my God. And there are a number of reasons why that is. Dave, I would say Kevin Hart, and third one, boy, because a lot of I really like Paul Mooney, but he's gone. So yeah, it's hard to find good comedians nowadays, because all the greats have passed. Bernie Mac was really good. I don't know if I could come up with a third one.
I'm a fan of D.L. Hughley. He's one of my favorites.
He's really transitioned from being a comedian to like very serious political, talking head now.
And that's actually why I like his comedy, because his comedy is based on real stuff. I'm not like a slapstick kind of comedy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so the D.L. Hughley's, I like Dave Chappelle's stand-up. I don't like Dave Chappelle's skits, because those are way too slapstick for me. So
I got you.
I agree with you. And I'm not a Kevin Hart fan. Some of his stuff is funny. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah. But I hear you. I mean, it's hard because, okay, like for instance, Eddie Murphy. He started out really good, and then it just got to be, I don't know, not.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
After the Nutty Professor, I believe his comedy went downhill. He started talking about farts.
Yeah.
And stuff, and
Yeah.
that's just not funny to people who need intellectual stimulation.
Right, but Charlie Murphy was really funny. To me, Charlie Murphy was funnier than Eddie.
I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff. Maybe I have to Netflix him and check him out. So you've traveled quite extensively. What is your favorite vacation spot and why?
Wow. Okay. So I have a cousin who is a travel agent, and we did some traveling even before I was went overseas. But I would say my favorite travel spot is Palawan, Philippines.
Ooh,
Um, so for those who don't know, I mean, I didn't even know this, and I lived in the Philippines, as a kid. But Philippines used to be a territory of the U.S., and we gave them their independence after World War II. So by virtue of that, 90% of Filipinos speak English.
oh,
Uh, yeah, it's a very English, friendly country, right? Um, and they are archipelago. I think that's how you pronounce it, which is a landmass made up of several islands, right? The Philippines is made up of 7,000 over 7,000 islands.
good Lord.
Yeah, check that out, right? And so my favorite island there, and so you can just go island hopping for, day after day. It is a beautiful, beautiful country. The people are so accommodating and friendly. They almost sing when they talk.
Oh,
They-
wow.
you know, they're so friendly. And my favorite place there is Palawan. Palawan Island is the island off of the west coast of the Philippines. It looks like Philippines looks kind of like a man walking on a cane, and Palawan is the cane.
Okay.
And it's been known as the most beautiful island in the world.
Oh,
They have sunken Japanese destroyers off the north coast, but they have a lot of resorts there, and it's you can go scuba diving, snorkeling. They have an underground river tour that you can go on. You can get a motorcycle and just go, up and down the island. I mean, it's, palm tree. It's just beautiful. So yeah, Palawan is my favorite spot.
okay. So, this is a really big question. What goes on grits?
Butter and salt.
Butter and salt. Okay.
Yeah, I shun people that put sugar on grits. Get behind me, Satan.
Oh Lord, oh Lord. I do both of them depending on which day it is and how I feel. Sometimes it's butter and salt, sometimes it's butter and sugar.
Wow,
Never
that's
the two
interesting.
shall mix. And I've heard
That's
people put pepper on their grits too.
yeah, I've heard of that too. Yep, yep.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So what is success to you?
Ooh, success is being in control of your own outcomes, your own destiny, your own life, and then passing that wisdom, the success on to your children and your children's children,
Mhm,
and being living a happy and fulfilled life where you can help and empower other people. Yeah.
mhm. And how do you hope people remember you?
Oh man, so okay. One
Mhm.
of my favorite books is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, Stephen Covey talks about begin with the end in mind. And he gives a scenario where a person is at their 80th birthday. And so how would you like to look back upon your life, and what would you have people say about you? Right. And so uh, I've thought about this a bunch. When I die, I want a big funeral. People are almost throwing themselves off the rafters in grief.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my God, he was my teacher. Chinese students. He was my teacher. And then my black brothers in Saab. Beef Easy. They used to call me Beef Easy. Beef Easy. He was so cool, man. We loved him. So international people, domestic people, black people, white people, all like, oh my God.
Oh
And
my
so I want to
gosh.
be remembered for that. And so I really work hard to be an empowering person, and someone that people trust, and people feel good around. My dad was very charismatic, very good with people. I got that, and my son has that also.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you share your elevator pitch with us?
Oh my God. Oh wow. That that's a tough one. It would depend on what I'm going for, because I wear so many different hats. It could be like, hi, I'm Dr. Brenden Fox. I'm an assistant professor of management and been in leadership studies for university in Kansas, and so this is what I want. This is what I'm trying to do. Blah blah blah. Or it would be, hi, I'm Dr. Fox. I am um, I have a side hustle in financial literacy, and I'd like to get together with you sometime and talk about some of the things that we could do to help you, learn about money. You know, or it could be, I'm Dr. Fox. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fox Foundation, and we believe in great leadership, in good leadership cures all. And so we want to do this project with you, blah, 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 right? So yeah, it could be any one of a number of those things.
All right. And so how would a person connect with you if they wanted to take one of your literacy courses? How can they contact you?
Okay. Well, wow, that's a good question. So I would, and I knew that was going to come up. My goodness. So I I would I would put out my email address. Can I do that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, for people that want to learn about financial literacy, I'm a registered Social Security analyst. I'm a college planning consultant. And I also help people with retirement planning and asset accumulation. You can contact me, well, two ways. At the Fox Foundation, that's fox-foundation.org. And there's a online contact sheet on that. My email is Dr. Brenden, that's DrBrendon, the number 1 at gmail.com. And yeah, either one of those two ways. And I'd be happy to connect with you and start a discussion.
Okay. Do you have any webinars or seminars or anything coming up in the next 30 days?
So the workshops that we give are all free on Zoom. They're given twice a day, and there's 6 different workshops. So, if a person were to contact me, I would steer them to, one of the workshops, and they rotate, right? Workshop 1 on one day, workshop 2 the next day, and so on. So that's 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And we put people in workshops because the approach is, once people learn about money, then they can make the best decisions for them. And my role is to help them achieve those goals or those plans. We can sit down with them, do a personal financial strategy, and see where they are on the map and where they want to be, and make that work for them.
All right. So do you have any final words for my listeners?
Well, I have. Oh my God, I'm so glad that our mutual friend Janice put us in touch with each other. I thought it was cool that you had the same last name that I do, because us Foxes, we need to stick together, right?
Absolutely.
I would, and so having this opportunity to engage with you and speak to your listeners is an honor. I would like to tell your listeners to, wow, to, I don't know, try to be the best version of yourself as possible. I know that sounds like a platitude, but in this time of COVID, where we have all these stresses, and a lot of us have been inside for a long time. I'm in the Chicago area right now, hanging out with my pops, who's 87.
Okay.
And Chicago is just racked. I mean, the news every day is, somebody got shot accidentally, this person killed another person, and it's like, we are in a free fall almost, and so we just need to try to be the best version of of ourselves and try to, lift each other up and respect uh, each other as brothers and sisters. That's about the best I can I can leave you with.
Okay, well, I would like to thank you for this interview. I have had a great time getting to know you this morning. You are quite the interesting man. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that, Xavier. I really enjoyed the opportunity to meet with you. It was I had some anxiety, a little nervous about being on your show, but I have had a great time,
Well,
and
I'm glad.
hope to come back maybe and do it again sometime.
All right. Well, we will work on that. And thanks for coming on this morning, and you enjoy the rest of your day.